I lost my older brother in a car wreck in 2015. At the time, the funeral home had this thing where you could buy a ring and have your loved one's fingerprints engraved on it. And so I did that. And on the inside of the ring, I had inscribed the one and only, because he was my one and only brother. I lost it very recently, and as devastating as that was, it's not altogether surprising given my track record for losing and misplacing small objects. It's honestly a miracle I haven't lost or misplaced my wedding ring at this point. So in its place, I came up with this. I recently purchased the Nikon ZF, and one of the brilliant quirks about this camera is, like old film cameras, as it's modeled after, you can screw things onto or into the shutter release button. So I hopped on Amazon and I picked up some of these little steel shutter release buttons. Now, this was 9 years ago, so I called the funeral home to see if they still had my brother's fingerprints, and sure enough, they still did, and they sent them to me. So I contacted a good friend's dad, who side hustles in laser engraving, sent him the fingerprints, and had him engrave the fingerprints on the button, so now it can live on my camera and go everywhere I go to take photos. Now you might be thinking, what does all this have to do with photography? I struggled with what to call these points, but here are 3 ways in which I think loss can have a profound impact on your art. But I also want to say here at the start of the video that if you have experienced loss and you are struggling, I've included some resources. And those resources are also linked in the description of this video. First one is motivation. It sounds weird to say, like a weird flex or something, but one of the last text messages my brother ever sent me said, "You're a really good photographer." That meant a lot to me coming from my older brother, somebody I had always looked up to. In 2015, I'd probably been pursuing photography for about 3 years. Looking back, I didn't take any photos of my brother. All I have left are a few cell phone photos that we took when we'd hang out in those first few years of our adult lives. This shutter release button holds a great deal of significance to me because so much of my drive as a photographer comes from this desperate need to preserve the world around me. So, let your loss motivate you to create. You will absolutely be surprised by where it takes you. I was listening to an old segment of To the Best of Our Knowledge about crying. I'm probably going to butcher this, but they were talking about how crying is a deep form of expression that transcends language. So you can cry with another person, and without saying a word or without even speaking their language, you can walk away with a better, deeper understanding of one another. I think photography can do this too. Without words, you can frame the world around you in ways that can lead to healing. Second, sharing. I'm not saying that you should shoot for free all the time, but I am saying there's absolutely no harm in giving back and sharing your story in the process. A few years ago, a friend of mine had a scare. Her mom wasn't doing very well. She was very sick. Her family wasn't sure how much worse it was going to get, so they reached out to me for a possible final family photo shoot, and I did it for free. And I hope the process provided them with a sense of closure, because I know it certainly did for me. It's not often you get invited into those spaces where people are hurting, and I think that's one of the most amazing things photography can provide for you and the world around you. I don't have many photos of my brother. I have even less video, and that fact really gets to me. More depressing is I've recently almost entirely forgot what my brother's voice sounded like. You see, dying is a complicated process, and most people won't get the opportunity to say goodbye to the people they'll lose in life. And for those who see death coming, photography usually isn't top of mind. So, if you're a part of any community, and anybody in that community is facing the prospect of loss, you could have a serious impact on their life by sharing your art with them. Third, healing. One of the things I struggled the most with after I lost my brother was being able to describe that feeling to others. It wasn't that anybody was asking me to describe what that felt like. I just felt, and I still feel, a deep need for people to understand, to universally humanize the loss of life and the loss of loved ones and the nonsensical nature of it. for 25 years I had an older brother, and now I didn't. And transitioning to being an only child did not make any sense to me. A few years ago, I saw a photo taken by a local photographer, entered into a photo contest at our local fair. I'm going to do my best to describe it, but it was a top-down shot of a woman laying in bed with covers over her. And on the opposite side of the bed, it was empty. And next to the empty side of the bed, there was a nightstand with a bird cage. And the door on the bird cage was wide open, and there was no bird inside. I was absolutely floored. I had goosebumps because without words, I was able to empathize with that woman and her experience and her loss. And this was one of the most powerful photos I'd ever seen at the time. Granted, this was a staged photo. It was a pictorial, but the inspiration for the photo likely came from somebody's real lived experience trying to communicate that back to the world through photography. I'd been struggling with ways to find closure through photography, given my situation and the loss of my brother. And I was pretty sure that if I could create a similar photo detailing my experiences, this would provide that closure. I believe photos are like jokes. If you have to explain it, it's probably not that good of a joke. Nevertheless, I'm going to try to explain this next photo before I show it to you. And then I think that'll be the end of the video. When I was younger, my family, my mom, dad, my brother, and I would have family game night once or twice a month. We'd play Uno, Monopoly, euchre, life, put puzzles together, you name it. But what if instead of us gathering together for family game night as usual, one of us was missing and the rest of us were left to pick up the pieces? As always, thanks for watching. And again, if you're experiencing loss and you're struggling, please seek help.